It's the Powerhouse Woman Show. You're a powerhouse woman, successful, accomplished, but you know the time has come for something else. To pivot, make a shift, or do what you've been putting off for a long time. I'm Monica Pierre, a media entrepreneur, Emmy Award-winning journalist and coach, and I'm on a mission to help you figure out your path forward and create powerful new stories about your life and legacy. There's more ahead. Time to do the greatest work of your life. The Powerhouse Woman Show is sponsored by Fidelity Bank Power, potential of women entrepreneurs realized, with more than 1,200 members. Fidelity Power, believing in the power of you. And it's all about believing in the power of you. Hello and welcome to the Powerhouse Woman Show. I'm Monica Pierre. So glad you could join us today. And if you have been just tussling with yourself about going in another direction, pivoting, or doing something different and something new, but you feel that, well, maybe you shouldn't because of the identity that you have, today's show is for you. And I am convinced you're going to get some inspiration. We're joined by the one and only Yewande Olamide, and we're so glad you could join us. I've been practicing your name.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such an honor.
It is a pleasure to have you, and we should say you're joining us from Toronto, and we do appreciate that as well. So we welcome you to the show, and people are already saying hello to you. I don't know if you could see it.
Hi.
Okay. Do you recognize some of these folks?
I do. Hi, Demola. Hi, Irene.
Yes. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have the kind of show where all are welcome to participate. So come on in and say hello. And we just really want to have you, Yewande, to talk about making that decision to go from one thing to the other. And you're also the founder and CEO of her Wealth Growth Consulting, and you are an ER doctor turned entrepreneur.
That's right.
So I'm sure people are saying, what? Tell us about the journey to not emphasize your ER work, but to find other ways in which to serve.
Sure. Thank you so much for asking that, Monica. So I am a trained ER physician. I had practiced in the ER for almost 10 years. And in 2019, I left on maternity leave, actually fully believing that I would come back to the emergency room. However, when I was away, I started to realize that even though I was scheduled to go back, I was dreading the return. I really was, because there were times when I would leave the hospital, I would be crying. I would feel frustrated because I felt like I wasn't giving my best to my patients. The truth is, I ended up being burnt out. I just wasn't as empathetic. I wasn't spending as much time with my patients as I normally would have, because emotionally I was just spent. And I often like to say that entrepreneurship cured my burnout because actually one of my friends who was tuned in sent me a podcast of another physician who was an entrepreneur herself, and she was teaching other physicians how to own their own business, how to find their gifts, how to find their talents, what they are good at, what they were created to do. And as I began to listen, my eyes started to open as to, okay, I could try this and I could try that. And something at the time that I was passionate about was learning about money, right? I was on my own journey to learn about how to manage my finances, how to invest. And I started to learn and become successful at that. I found myself just teaching that to other women and thought that, okay, you know what? This is something that I'm passionate about, teaching, offering different perspectives, really breaking down complex issues into a way that was fully understandable. I also say that I simplify the language of money, and then I teach that to other women. And so that was how Her Wealth Grows was born, helping other women understand what it is to invest, how to manage their cash flow, right? And in that, I started to find that I was really good at things like telling stories, writing, even creating graphics, recently it's been doing live videos. And so all these things that as a physician, as a doctor, I never knew I could do, all of a sudden I was doing them and loving them and finding that that burnout that I was feeling as an ER physician had completely disappeared. And I'm so thankful for the journey so far.
Wow, and it's so needed. We also want to welcome, I'm sure your fan club is growing. Okay. All right. Welcome, welcome. As also, I'll give you an opportunity to pronounce names. I don't want to
Okay.
slaughter. It took me 3 weeks to practice your name.
Okay. I see everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank
And
you for being
Veronica,
here.
I'm okay with Veronica. Hi,
Yeah.
Veronica. Please forgive me, others, for not pronouncing your name because our names are the most important and the sweetest sound.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you for sharing that. And we're talking today about going in a different direction. All right, ER doctor, we can understand burnout. Yeah, that happens. Rest and get back right to the ER. What were some of the reactions to you saying, I am going to maybe de-emphasize my ER experience and service and pivot and go into perhaps entrepreneurship? What did people think? That you were
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah. I think the first person I ever said that out loud to was my husband, and he was shocked. I think he thought maybe I was going through a phase, maybe it was something to do with postpartum, or like, I don't know. I think he was really shocked. And I think sometimes he still isn't quite sure whether I am on this journey for good. The truth is that in becoming an entrepreneur, I also learned about my other skills. I mean, I haven't given up medicine completely. I've just found how to practice medicine on my own terms. And so, what I do now as a medical doctor is I'm a psychotherapist, a medical psychotherapist, and I help all sorts of people, mostly women, really identify some of the things that are causing them anxiety, sometimes even depression. And ultimately, the work that I do helps to bring out their self confidence and their sense of self worth. And so, even though I'm not saving lives in resuscitation rooms, I'm not fixing broken bones, I still believe that I am saving lives, Monica. I am helping women. I'm helping them really see who they are on the inside. I'm helping them fix broken patterns of thinking and broken habits that are really taking them down a path of, today, one of my clients said self sabotage. And so it's a different type of medicine, but it is medicine. And also putting that together with how our finances can affect our mental health and our emotional well-being. And so as an entrepreneur in the financial space, that's the work that I'm doing. I feel like people are only just coming to the realization that I'm not going back to the ER. And I think the more that I say it, the more people believe it. And the more that I show up in places like this, where I'm speaking more about my work with Her Wealth Grows, people are identifying me less as an ER physician and more as an entrepreneur.
Wow. Absolutely. And the courage that it takes, I want to applaud you for that.
Thank
And we do have a few more people. My goodness gracious. Okay, let's see. Whoop whoop. Okay. And Rami, yes. Mhm. And
Hello.
let's see. We love it. Absolutely. And we just are so grateful that you are tuning in because I think this is life-saving conversations.
Mm,
It's important because why must we continue on a path that we know no longer serves us? Or even
mm.
if you just want to do something different, that's okay. Did you have to, in a way, let go of a certain aspect of your identity as an ER physician?
That was the hardest part. It's still the hardest part because when I meet people that I haven't met before and they ask, the inevitable question, so what do you do? It's still hard for me to let go of that identity. And yes, I did have to let go. The interesting thing is, Monica, that the minute I made the decision to let go was the minute that opportunity started to open up in my business and also in my work as a psychotherapist. As soon as I made that decision to let go of my identity as an ER physician and started to embrace something different and something new, it was like doors started to open up. And so I really want to emphasize, honestly, that point that letting go. I often think of the analogy of an acrobat on a trapeze, and he's holding onto one bar and trying to advance, or she's holding onto one bar and trying to advance, right? She's not going to get anywhere if she's still holding onto the bar behind us. She needs to let go of that bar to be able to grab the one and keep moving forward. So honestly, letting go of that identity was the first step towards entering this new identity that I now have.
Oh, that is gold. I had to write that down. Let go of the bar behind you. That is absolutely amazing. And so we're going to get into the Powerhouse wrap up in just a minute, but we do have a few more folks just really applauding. This is striking a chord with a lot of women in particular. I think you're really onto something. And Veronica says, you are an inspiration, Yewande. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So good to get to know you
Thank
and for you
you.
sharing that. So, in a nutshell, you've talked a little bit about her wealth grows. So, how do you service? How do you work with clients?
Okay. So primarily I work through education. So on my social media platforms, I try to educate women as much as possible, not only on the textbook stuff about money, but also how emotionally and psychologically, a lot of the patterns of behavior, the habits that we have are impacting our money. So I do a lot of that on social media. I also work with women one on one through my coaching services. And now I am also opening up even more. I'm starting what I'm calling wealth clinics. And wealth clinics are free clinics that I'm hosting where we come together live and discuss a particular case that has been presented by a member of my audience. And I teach around that case and provide insights and strategies that women can then on use to apply in their own lives, in their own finances, and their own emotional well-being. So I teach and I coach. Those are the two main ways that I provide services to my audience and people that I serve.
That is amazing. So you can go to herwealthgrows.com/clinic and you'll get information. That's again, it's going to start the last Friday of this month, the 27th of August. So we're going to get into the roundup. We do have people just really wanting to say, just giving you so much admiration and so
Thank you
much
so
love.
much.
Oh,
Thank
yes.
you. Thank
Thank you
you.
all. Thank you all so much. And I hope that those who are joining us for the first time will continue because we have such great powerhouse women joining us. And yes, Yewande, you are a powerhouse woman.
Thank
So it
you.
is time for the Powerhouse wrap up where we do lightning round on some questions. So here we go. Complete this sentence. A powerhouse woman is.
A powerhouse woman is not afraid to let go of her past, whether good, whether bad, in order to embrace the future and what the future has to hold.
Oh, wise, wise, wise. We always like to know about advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? I'm curious as to who gave it to you and how have you used it or continue to use it in your life?
Thank you so much for that question, Monica. And so, the best advice that I have received came from my dad, actually. And he would say, happiness is a choice, right? Happiness is a choice. And in fact, studies have shown, psychologists have studied this, that we would think that our circumstances and our situations make up the most impact on our happiness. But when they actually did the studies, only 10% of our circumstance, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's a tragic accident that has caused disability, only 10% of that makes up our happiness, our emotions. 50% is our genetics, but the other 40% is actually how we think and how we behave, what we choose to believe, and how we choose to engage in our world. So we do have that 40% control over our happiness. And so happiness is a choice. And whenever I'm faced with the opportunity to be grumpy or annoyed or irritated, I try to change my perspective. Not always easy, but I try to change my perspective to look at the positive side, the more optimistic side, the more encouraging side, and choose the happiness.
Yewande grumpy? Never. Absolutely never,
Catch
right?
me when I'm hungry and
Yeah,
tired.
yeah, yeah. You're hangry. You're angry and
Yes.
you're hungry. And I got a surprise question coming up. But what's your advice to other powerhouse women, particularly if they really are called and drawn right now to pivot or change directions?
Yeah, thank you for that. So, listen, it's not easy. Honestly, if I sat here pretending like, oh, it was just easy for me to walk away from a six-figure salary, the prestige of being an ER doctor, the stability of the profession, it's not easy. It's not easy. But one thing that I know to be true is that the fear will always be there, right? The fear will always be there, but try to reframe it as excitement, as something new. And like just have the fear as that companion that says, you know what, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be scary, but I'm going to do it anyways. And know that the fear will pass eventually as you take the bold step, feel the fear, do it anyways, and keep pushing forward. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. Don't let the fear stop you from reinventing yourself.
That is powerful. And for those who've been watching a while, I'm going to throw in a new question. This one is, what one job would you do for one day?
Oh, for one day,
Just for one day.
just for one day. So I actually don't know how food critics work. I don't know if they get to sample multiple restaurants in one day. But I think I love to eat, like especially if it's food that I did not have to cook for myself. So if I could be a food critic and just get paid to eat in all sorts of different places for one day, I think I would be very happy.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Well, we're wrapping up, but we do want to say, okay, you're an amazing coach.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Veronica's,
Rana.
applause from Veronica.
Thank you, Veronica.
And let's see,
Tell
Farana.
me, that's Irene. Thank you, Irene.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us, especially if this is your first time. I hope you continue on to watch the Powerhouse Women Show. We have so many wonderful, wonderful guests. And again, if you want to learn more about the clinics, I'll put the actual, here we go, herwealthgrows.com/clinic. Oh, Yewande, thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you,
You are a
Monica.
powerhouse woman with a
Thank
lot of
you.
wisdom.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Monica.
Oh, absolutely. And that is our show for today. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Let everybody know about the show. Please subscribe. We would really appreciate it. Until next time, keep being a powerhouse woman.